The resurrection wasn't a last minute miracle. It was the plan all along. From Psalms to prophets and patterns like Jonah, the entire story was building to an empty tomb. Now, is the resurrection something the Old Testament predicted, or something the early church discovered and then read back into the text? We'll talk about that and a little bit more on this resurrection foretold episode of Mount Hermeneutics. So keep it right here. You're listening to Mount Hermeneutics, where three Marines give their perspective on God, faith, and spirituality with a heavy lean on the divine council worldview. This is not your grandma's Sunday school, nor is it always for the Christian faint of heart. Nothing about who we are or what we say make us experts. But you better believe we'll have a take, and perhaps it won't suck. Just so you know, I get a lot of feedback that people like that. They like
Yeah.
our just bickering antics because it
Well,
makes us feel like we're real and we're friends and
they're gonna love this one then.
or that we just
Matt, you ignorant slut.
that we're dudes on the back porch drinking whiskey talking shit. Like that's the point.
You're comparing what we do to professional wrestling.
Yes,
In a matter of speaking, sure.
All right.
in that it's
I mean,
entertainment.
I
This
didn't know
is
that was-
this is religious entertainment radio.
Remember that Mount Hermeneutics is free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. And if you're checking us out on YouTube right now, then go ahead and hit that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our totally dope show. And if it's your first time with us, I'm Andre, and these are my totally dope friends that do dope shit. Brian and Matt, fellas, what's happening?
Just
Hey, Dre.
living a dope
Yeah.
life,
Just doing dope stuff
feeling like Kanye.
like I'm want to do.
I mean, you make it do what it do, baby.
Sometimes you think you're not like that, but you are.
But it's just, yeah. Everyone have a good Easter. Happy Pagan Day. That's not
Had a-
pagan.
had-
Wes
had-
Huff told us.
Had a fantastic Easter actually.
Very nice.
Yeah. How about you, Brian?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It was,
I got to start the day with well, I served at my church, so I was there early doing prep stuff, whatever, and then we pumped an episode out into the internet, much like this show, and then I sat through the second service because my boys, my son and my son-in-law, came up to watch church, but Carrie went home because the baby was already tired from having been there. But then I got to spend the afternoon with Susie, smoked some chickens, and then the family came over, and it was also Austin's birthday. So his birthday's every 7 years, I guess, lands on Easter. I don't know if it actually works like that or if Easter wobbles. I'd have to look at further calendars out. But anyway, yesterday was also his birthday. So he happened to be off because his place of employment was closed. So he got to be off and got to hang out with the family. And so it's cool.
all right.
Yeah. Dre, how about you?
I had two of my three kids with two of my three granddaughters at my
Math
mother's
maths?
house. Yeah, at my mother's house. And well, it's funny because
Yeah.
the one without the kid is the one
Was
that didn't
there.
come.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
no,
And
he
you,
was.
and you were
Yeah,
still missing one of the
we're
grandkids.
still missing. Yeah,
That is funny.
Uh, yeah, we spent time with my mother, and so it's nice. She got to see the babies again before they
Nice.
fly out to Hawaii,
Yeah.
and so hopefully they get another shot. They get another shot at it.
Yeah. Time's rough on that one, huh? You don't know. Things just, yeah.
Um,
When do they leave?
May.
Okay.
So was this April next
Yeah.
month?
Yeah.
They leave next month, and my birthday falls on Mother's Day often.
So you're accustomed to the situation.
To the dual,
Yeah.
or like, oh, guess whose holiday is canceled due to mothers.
Well, it was funny because I said that to Austin last night as I was going to bed. I was like, "Hey, son, happy birthday again." I was like, I guess it wasn't too bad, at least, having Easter dinner because everybody came over here. So my mom was
Right.
here and whatever. And he's like, I'd rather have Easter dinner at the house than a birthday dinner at the house. And I'm like, oh man.
You're like, huh, I got a mature kid, like,
Yep.
not a self-absorbed
Yep.
little.
Yeah, he did all right.
Though I will say Delani did a very good job over the years of,
Blending and
not yeah, of
yeah.
of making my birthday separate
Yeah.
from Mother's Day. She did a really, really, really good job of that. Brian, what'd you do?
My birthday is on January 1st.
That's not
So
that's not what we asked.
it's relevant.
It is relevant, although it's not an answer to the question.
But my spiritual birthday, the day I became a Christian, was 30 years ago on Easter.
So you and Austin
So-
shared a similar kind of birthday event, but not really.
Kinda. And
Kind of.
and twice over, my birth is tied to time itself being born in two different levels. Kinda. New Year's Day, came into the world.
Oh, okay.
Easter Sunday, I became a Christian.
Okay.
So anyway,
Gotcha.
And then I stood on the yellow footprints on another day that makes time stood still. And Arrgh!
I did that on June. It's in the
10th?
teens at some point.
Juneteenth? You were
Sure.
black the day you
That
said
would be
yellow footprints?
hilarious. Brian's like, yeah, I got saved on Easter, born on the 1st of the January, went to Marine Corps Juneteenth.
Enslaved on June. On Juneteenth.
Which you beat me. You beat me to that enslavement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Artemis 2 is on the far side of the moon. Oh, it's a minute after they're supposed to emerge.
Are they
So,
coming out were they in a blackout?
yeah, they were on the other side of the.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're supposed to
Uh-oh.
be at.
I wonder if they're
1 minute
still in
ago.
there.
They're
I don't know.
floating
I
in
wanna
deep
know now.
space.
That ship's
I wanna
empty.
know.
Artemis could come around. There's no people in it. They'd be like, what's going on?
That ship is going to come back a Decepticon.
Like the black hole with Maximilian and
Or what was the other one? Event Horizon.
I hate that movie.
Brian hates a sci-fi movie.
And a good one too.
It's not even really a sci-fi movie. It's a horror movie.
It's
a horror
both.
movie in space.
Yeah.
That's like saying Alien's not a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Huh.
Can be both.
Um.
I mean, they have sci-fi pornography.
Well,
I've heard.
With tentacles.
I was about to concede Dre's point, but now I'm just disagreeable.
Yeah.
That's the spirit.
I don't want to agree with
So in
anything
case
anyone
people
says.
wonder why we do this unnecessary like chit chat, it's so we can get ourselves in the mood to disagree. That's the whole point. If we don't have conversation, we're like we're all agreeable and we're like, hey man, it's good to see you. How you been? But then one of us says something that's like, you know what, you're an idiot. So what's our topic?
Matt, you ignorant slut. What are we talking about today?
So speaking of the dark side of the moon, did
Mm.
you guys catch what Matt Getz said?
Gates?
With Michael Knowles about the aliens and
The U.S. government has an alien human breeding program.
yeah, I heard that. I don't like everything is so weird now.
But how do we just wash over that as if he didn't say it?
That's not even the worst part.
That's the surreal part. Like you can't just write him off because if it was just him and not like lots of other people who are otherwise highly functioning officials within the government, you could just blow him off as crazy.
Because did y'all hear what Congressman Burchett said?
No.
In response. So Congressman Burchett revealed, I'm reading a Twitter post. His quote was, if they would release the things I've seen, you'd be up at night thinking about this stuff. I was briefed 2 weeks ago. It would have set the earth on, this country would have come unglued if they would have heard what I heard. They would demand answers. Unfortunately, it keeps getting covered up into people that know are dying or disappearing. For the record, I'm not suicidal and I don't take risks. This is what he said in response to, did you hear what Matt Getz said?
And that's why I'm nervous right now about the Artemis mission because
Yeah.
we like is it that crazy to expect there's probably an alien moon base up there
And
or
then
alien? I don't. For the listeners, I did what Matt calls scary quotes
I do not
because
call those scary quotes. I call those air quotes. You call those scare quotes.
Everyone in the Western world that is part of our culture calls them air quotes, except for Brian Irvin and Matt Walsh. Like a
Couple of journalist
what
nerds.
what do I call them?
scare
Scare
quotes.
quotes.
No,
No, you're
th-
the reason they come
these
up.
these would be air quotes when I'm demonstrating them with my fingers. Those are air quotes. When you're not demonstrating with your fingers in midair, um, and you just like when you look at them in print, they are called scare quotes, but you were calling them scary quotes not long ago.
Mm,
I'm gonna
that's
I'm
not.
gonna find the episode. I'm gonna dig
If,
it
Feel
if
up and
we
I'm
free.
gonna play
said,
it back.
if
Feel
someone
free.
says scary quotes, it's because they're making fun of you.
Yeah, feel free. We were saying air
Uh,
quotes and you said scare quotes, and we thought that was hilarious until we found out it was actually a thing.
So so you're
So,
making fun of me because
so
of your
now
own
we, so
ignorance.
now we must mock you.
But you're not mocking me. You're mocking your own arrogance for not, I mean,
No,
ignorance
no,
for not
no.
knowing.
We're mocking the fact that even though it's right, that still makes it nerdy because
And
nobody else
Okay.
uses the word except you
Okay.
and
what's wrong with just saying in quotes? I quote.
Because it's
And
not,
and
it's
this
not the
was the
parlance.
reference. Air quotes was the reference, and you said scare quotes. In scare
You're,
quotes.
we're talking about like a couple of years ago in an early episode when Matt started the scary quotes thing. Anyway, the listeners don't care about this.
mm-mm.
I'll find the footage. You'll see. You'll all see. So any word on
Hey,
Artemis?
I'm not done with my concerns about what's going on with the government and aliens. So 8, 9 days ago, JD Vance got asked about aliens and UFOs, and he said, I don't have a direct quote. Um, he said, "Trust me, I'm obsessed with this." Quotes, air quotes. I don't think they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion. End quote.
Yeah, but
When he asked to
technically,
expand, he said, well, look, I think the celestial beings who fly around who do weird things to people, I think that the desire to describe everything celestial, everything is otherworldly, describe it as aliens. And then the last thing he said was, I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed.
I think we can convert JD Vance to DCW.
Like, there's just too much governmental. So we've got
And
the number two man in the US government that thinks they're demons.
eh,
A
now at this
former
point,
representative thinks we have a breeding program, and another rep's like, I mean,
they're just effing with us at this point.
that's kind of what it feels like. We're being trolled.
And it's a very trolling administration. I mean, Matt Gates is trollable, and JD Vance is he's pretty trolling.
Well, he's
He,
proven it with all of his with all the memes and him
he
embracing the memes and reposting the memes and
like his fat memes.
yeah, I think
he's basically taken it and ran with it, and now he pushes those out. There's like AI of him with those weird faces dancing and stuff while
Yeah.
Trump's doing the YMCA dance and they're dancing all over Iran. Like I just saw this earlier today.
Well, I mean, maybe if they like wrapped up Iran, they could do that. But until
all right.
then, they
So
should shut.
Artemis 2 is back in contact with
Uh-oh.
NASA. So
Yeah,
Did they
sure
give
they
them
are.
like did they give them challenge and running passwords to make sure they're still them when they come out?
I don't know. I was half listening to you guys while I
Yeah.
was watching the NASA feed.
NASA
So
has a feed.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
been a live stream. Like you can see
Yeah.
the cockpit. Like you can see from inside the spaceship.
I'm just looking at mission control. They don't have that stuff yet.
Well, they don't have dash cam.
That's probably good. I don't know how long does it take for light to get from that?
Seconds, quarter of
I
a
think it
second.
take,
It's
I think
not
it
that
takes
far.
I think it takes
No,
yeah,
it's
I don't know.
basically instantaneous. UHF comms that far out's like you got like a half a second, quarter second delay.
I mean,
Me and John were driving one time and we did the math because he was trying to say that he didn't think that what's that, the spaceship that has the big telescope on it that's out there flying around.
James Webb.
Yeah, the Webb. He was like, how could that thing even transfer data to us from that far away? He's like, I think it's fake. And so we were like, I had to look up like how fast UHF travels and then distance, speed of light, divide by, and all that. And it ended up being like it could transfer like its megabit bandwidth at the speed of light is like super high and it's totally feasible.
So
he was
the
like,
sun
okay,
is the sun is 8 minutes away. Light takes 8 minutes to get here from the sun.
it's pretty far.
So that's 8 minutes per AU. And I don't think James Webb is even 1 AU away yet. I don't think it's even a fraction of an astronomical.
But what about V'ger though?
V'ger is
long gone.
V'ger died recently.
I think so. I think I heard that too. Yeah.
So
I wonder if it'll resurrect.
If the
But did it already take Ilea?
No, it has to get upgraded by the techno civilization first before it can occupy a human host.
And Captain Decker, like, yeah,
that guy's a pedophile.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever get his own starship now.
I can never watch Star Trek: The Motion Pictures. Boring movie ever again because the pedophiles on it.
I hope all of our listeners have followed this conversation pathway to understand that they just made a Star Trek transition.
Yeah, dude. What do you think? They're communist?
Of course they know.
No.
I know one fan for sure.
Everybody in the comments that had no idea what just happened, say "me too" in the comments.
Hashtag me too. I got me too.
I got me too'd when V'ger came up.
I have a super fan. They probably shouted the answer out like she was a black person in a movie theater.
I guarantee I know 3 listeners that are going to put "me too" in the comments.
I can name that listener in 2 notes.
All right. So speaking of fantastic otherworldly events, the resurrection.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually 40 days. Resurrection Day.
So you're saying a day is 40 days long in resurrection days?
No, I'm saying that
I'm 4 resurrection years old.
Appearances happened over 40 days. So
yeah, you mentioned that
just be one day.
You mentioned that in our chat, and I hadn't thought of that. But obviously, I mean, it did, and it was funny because my church service was actually about past resurrection. They did a totally different take on the resurrection story, and we talked about Jesus's third appearance to the disciples while they were out fishing, which I admittedly wasn't familiar with that story. I think a lot of times we get to the resurrection, like, okay, the end, and then we move on to like Romans or something, right? It's like you don't read the rest of the Gospels because it's like, well, it's some yada 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 things and stuff, and then you kind of move on.
Did you just yada 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 the end of the Gospels?
that is a common practice, though.
I've done it many times over.
Yeah.
Like I was just speaking from personal. I was calling myself out. I was speaking my truth, but that was interesting to think about that it was like, this is the second time, this is the third time. I still find it peculiar that as Jesus continued to reappear, they still didn't seem to be like innately. There seemed to still be confusion and odd behavior. Like, so like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I used my practice used to be to read all 4 of the Gospels resurrection accounts on Easter. One year, probably about, I think like 13 years ago, I decided to combine them in like one account to kind of like get a harmonized narrative of the entire 40 days. and it's some interesting things emerged. What the New Testament scholar Lydia McGrew has written about undesigned coincidences between the Gospels. That
Are we gonna do this before the rapid fire?
Okay. Well, I'll wrap this up. I wrote a harmony, and you got there's an interesting narrative that emerges, and I'll just leave it at that. And it's on my blog. Give you the link. I'm sure everyone's dying to read it.
As long as they wake up and read it after they die.
It's cute. I see what you did.
Read it again.
All right, so rapid fire. Lightning round.
Lightning round. You don't have to say the lightning round, dude.
It does it on its own. You don't got to say it.
You don't got to say it. Okay, so
lightning round.
Was the resurrection clearly predicted or only seen in hindsight?
Both.
Yes.
If Psalm 16 is about David, why do we think it applies to Jesus?
That's an essay question, dude. Yes.
Can Isaiah 53 make sense without resurrection?
I don't think so. No.
Is third day language coincidence or a biblical pattern, Matt?
I think that's a pattern for sure.
You didn't ask me, so I'm just gonna nod.
Okay, fine. Why does Jesus point to Jonah? Or does Jonah point to Jesus?
Yes, like you tip the answer with the question, but yeah, I think so. Never mind. I have other things to say about that, but yes.
Brian.
Are you want me to answer the question? Yes.
Okay. Let's act like we've done this before.
Are you guys professionals? Can we act like professionals here?
Are typologies legitimate prophecy or creative reinterpretations?
Legitimate?
Yeah, legitimate.
Did first century Jews expect a dying and rising Messiah?
No. Heck no, they didn't.
Why were the disciples so shocked if it was indeed foretold?
Because they also didn't expect it.
They were expecting a general resurrection at the end of history, not the Messiah to rise.
Does Hosea 6:2 refer to Israel or the Messiah?
Yes.
Is the resurrection a centerpiece of scripture or just the conclusion?
I'd say it's the centerpiece.
I think it's the conclusion, but it was but it's the actual point.
And then yada yada yada.
It's a preview. It's the center and the preview to the conclusion.
Could the Old Testament be understood without resurrection themes?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Is the resurrection proof of Jesus or the lens to understand him?
Both?
Yeah, both.
Was the resurrection about one man or the beginning of a new creation?
Also both.
Well, yeah.
If the resurrection launched a new covenant, what ended?
The other covenants?
Okay.
Wait, say that again. If the resurrection launched a new covenant, what was the question part?
What ended?
What ended?
Oh, I'm not sure anything ended. I think it was elevated to a new level.
Are we reading prophecy forward or only backward after the fact?
I think we're doing a bit of both. I think that's an essay question. I'll explain.
I think we're reading it forward with the benefit of being able to go backwards.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me it's an essay question. Just cut your answer short, for crying out loud. If it was foretold everywhere, why do so many people still miss it?
Because they misunderstood what they were told.
Because they project Platonic metaphysics onto the text and it blinds
Okay,
them.
we're done with this section.
Done with that guy.
We can't have a foretelling without talking about prophecy. So I think it's fitting that prophecy is the first thing we talk about on this whole, the resurrection was foretold. How was it foretold? What are the layers of prophecy here, Brian, that we're talking about?
All right. Well, there is look, as you alluded, I would contend that there are multiple layers of prophecy. Well, that's really not even a contentious statement. Obviously, there's the straightforward
I mean, Brian
prophecy.
said it, so why would it be contentious? I don't know.
Well, I will have things that aren't like they're if it's widely acknowledged, I'm not aware of it. It's just my own observation. You can
Sure.
take it or leave it, but I think I can defend it pretty well. But what's not contentious is that there's prophecy in this straightforward, literal, predictive sense. The Messiah will be pierced for our transgressions, that kind of thing. The from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah comes, there will be X number of years. Those are examples of the obvious, straightforward, literal, predictive prophecy. Then at a deeper level, you have the typological prophecies that you see in like Matthew when he talks about he quotes Hosea saying, "Out of Egypt I called my son." It's when you read it in context, he's talking clearly about the exodus of Israel out of Egypt in the book of Exodus, but it's applied to Jesus as the Messiah, as the embodiment of Israel in his childhood, fulfilling that type. And you have all kinds of typological prophecies, a whole bunch of prophecies of that kind that predict resurrection as a general theme, like the flood story is a resurrection story, Noah being drawn out of the basket, um, parting the Red Sea and walking through on dry land, that kind of thing. The Jonah story, um, Joseph's story in Genesis of being imprisoned in the cistern, which is a type of grave, rejected by the sons of Israel, sold for the price of a slave, left for dead as he's enslaved, spends 3 years in Pharaoh's dungeon. Uh, um, in the third year, he's raised to the right hand of Pharaoh to become the savior of Israel. They
Interesting. So
look on
you're
him.
suggesting that the 3 years is
Yeah,
typological of the 3 days of death?
yeah.
I buy it.
And those are just some of the examples. There
That's why a
are
tour of duty is only 3 years in the Marines.
um, then there's the deeper level. I would say the deepest level, which is what I would call prophecy from first principles. Meaning, when you consider the fundamental nature of who God is and how he relates to us, um, like Psalm 103 is probably the centerpiece of this, but it's just kind of a sample of it. I think once you get the idea, as you read the Psalms and the prophets for yourselves, that with this in mind, I think I think you won't be able to unsee it. But you have things like, let's see, I have Psalm 103 open to. I kind of like. I'm resisting the urge to read the whole thing because that would be bad content, but it's a pretty densely packed psalm that like every line kind of feeds into this point. But bless Yahweh, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless Yahweh, O my soul, and do not forget all his benefits, who forgives all your iniquity, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit. That's that's a pretty it's a poetic but pretty straightforward discussion about resurrection, redeeming your life from the pit. Um, he does not deal with us according to our sins, nor repay us according to our iniquities. For as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is his steadfast love. The Hebrew is chesed. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. There's like a Matt. You probably can
I'm
know
I'm
more about
I'm
the
I'm trying
pronunciation
not
than
to
I
be
do.
that guy already. Yeah.
Um, It's typically sometimes it's spelled Hesed. It's transliterated Hesed or Chesed. It shows up a lot in the Old Testament.
The
It's
first letter is a
sometimes
guttural, and then it depends on which vowel follows it as to how much of the guttural effect you place on the first letter. But I mean, we don't want to do all that.
I'm gonna have two insufferable friends.
the word is chesed or
Yeah.
something like that. Translated steadfast love, loving kindness. It speaks of God's covenant love toward. It's often applied to David. This is a psalm of David. So great is his steadfast love toward those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far he removes our transgressions from us. That's a reference to the temple, the atonement through the sin offering. As a father has compassion for his children, so Yahweh has compassion for those who fear him, for he knows how we were made and remembers that we are dust. As for mortals, their days are like grass, they flourish like a flower of the field. So he's speaking of mortals as, those mortals, not in the third person. The suggestion being we are not mortals. They flourish like the flower of the field, for the wind passes over it and it is gone, and its place knows it no more. But the steadfast love of Yahweh is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to those who keep his covenant and remember to do his commandments. So this contrast, one, this appeal to God's steadfast, his covenant love, being forever, and contrasting against the impermanence of mortals who are like the grass of the field. It's basically, it isn't outright saying God is going to, it's not explicitly literally saying God is going to raise us from the dead, but it's appealing to the fact that God is eternal, his love is eternal, his love is for us. So unlike mortals who are blown away like grass, we will remain forever. So it reasons from who God is to basically establish resurrection. And this is a theme that you'll see throughout the Psalms and the prophets. And um so I think that's a big part of why the Jews have always had a belief in the general resurrection. Now, later on, in passages like Ezekiel 37, Daniel 12, resurrection is predicted explicitly, but the scripture builds toward that. It's kind of the expectation, something like the expectation of resurrection, is kind of being set up from the beginning. So, you guys follow? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Do you agree, disagree?
I think it makes sense. I don't know that I haven't given it that much thought. I don't know that it's, I mean, it's as reasonable an idea as anything. There's nothing that jumps out that makes me want to go, I don't buy that. So no, I'm good with that. Dre,
Another
I don't know if
feature.
you
I'm
have
sorry.
any,
Go ahead.
if anything jumped out at you with that.
No.
For anybody that's not watching, Dre spoke and realized he was muted and then couldn't figure out why he wasn't muted. So that delay wasn't like a wildly pregnant pause. That was a combination of things, but that was funny.
Yeah. Another thing that jumps out about the Psalm is it makes a kind of a brief allusion to the temple system. He removes our, as far as the east is from the west, he removes our sins from us. Um, the the temple is oriented from west to east. The entrance is on the east, and so the deeper into the temple you get, the deeper into God's presence. The farther west you go, the deeper you get into God's presence, with the Holy of Holies being at the westernmost portion of the tabernacle or temple. This is an architectural recreation of the Garden of Eden, how they were exiled to the east. And then when Cain sinned and was cursed, he was driven further east. And this is the Levitical temple system is kind of it's architecturally recreating Eden and enacting the restoration to Eden but through the atonement. The sin offering is made so the priest can go west while the scapegoat is taken east. So the sin is removed from the people represented in the priest. And what's the reason that's interesting to me in this psalm is that the psalmist doesn't appeal to he's not singing the praise of the efficacy of sacrifice in order to take away their sin. He's praising God and his love, and it's entirely tied up in who God is and his mercy and his love toward us. um the temple and the sacrificial system, that's just the external manifestation of that. The real power and holiness and grace is in the character of God himself, but all of that is taken, the removal of sin, God's mercy, the eternal nature of God himself and his love for us, all of that adds up to say resurrection. Like the psalmist is writing as the implication is that if you fear God, you are immortal.
I you can be correct. That's not my read of how this psalm is written, and I don't want to turn this whole show into a
An argument
hermeneutical
about 103.
a hermeneutical discussion of a specific psalm. But I think this psalm is written, and I forget the word. We talked about it a couple of episodes back, in that stacking style that like Leviticus is really famous for.
Chiastic structure.
Yeah, this is a chiastic psalm because it opens with two verses saying bless Yahweh, and then your last two verses are bless Yahweh, bless Yahweh. And so then you look and there's 22 verses. So you jump to the middle, and 11 and 12 are as hot as basically deep and wide. As tall as the heavens are from the earth, and as far as east is from west, so is that. So I think this is a chiastic art psalm. Like, and if you start kind of jumping around through that, you can kind of see some similarities to jump from top to bottom throughout it. I think that's how this is written. That doesn't mean that what you mentioned isn't also there, but if this is chiastic, then 11 and 12 are the most important verses in this chat in this song. And those basically the point of this is it doesn't matter what you've done, God loves you, and that you should praise Him because of that. Like that's literally this whole psalm in like 10 seconds.
Especially if, I mean,
and that doesn't, by the way, that I recognize that's not wildly in opposition to what you said, Brian. I just think the part about using the East West is talking about this as being a typology to the temple, which the temple was typology or a reenactment of Eden. I agree with you on that, but I don't think that's what's going on here, but could be. Well, you were talking about the east to west as being a part about the temple being from east to west. You come in on the east and you go out on the west, whatever. I don't think that's being referenced here in this specifically. That's all I was saying. All the things you said, I agree with, except that one little part.
All I heard was California is more holy
because it's on the west.
It's all the way.
It's certainly not true.
I think that's
not actually, according to God's love.
I think that's actually the easternmost part from which that's where the sin lands.
Yeah, exactly.
From the other side.
Because it's on the other side of the earth. So you have to invert it.
Christopher Columbus proved that California is the most evil place.
Yeah, because Dre, it's inverted.
It's inverted. Bullshit.
So how are you, like, when you say that's not in reference to the temple?
I just don't think that was at all what the point he was trying to make. I don't think the temple really entered into the point of this psalm because, like I said, if it's chiastic and 11 and 12 are the center, those are the main points. And the main points are you can't get away from God's love.
Sure. But if in a culture where the temple system is the center of Jewish religious life, removing sin from as far as the east is from the west, that's already kind of an idiomatic expression that references the temple.
And like I said, in a vacuum, I would agree with you. I think when you take it in context of this specific psalm, I don't think that's what they were getting at. And I think the point has nothing to do with the temple. God's love is with you, whether you're in the temple, whether you're near the temple, whether you're not. That's that's how I read this. But again, I don't really care to litigate it further because I don't think it helps the point of our show unless we want to turn this into what the hell does Psalm 103 really mean? Which we can. Like I'm cool to do that, but I don't think that was the point of what we got together tonight to talk about.
Well, if you don't like it, you can ignore it. I think if you consider the point I'm making, and as you read the rest of the Bible, I think it's something that will. I think it's a pattern you'll notice. This
Oh yeah,
sort
no, it
of
certainly is. Yeah,
prophecy from first principles.
yeah.
And there's a subset of that that kind of plays into the resurrection idea of um, prophecy from the negative space of first principles, meaning
The things that aren't talked about or the things that aren't specifically mentioned.
well, a specific example is like would be Psalm 89, which the first half it's all about the Davidic covenant. It's recapitulating the story of how God chose David and adopted him as a son and swore that he would never fail to have a man sitting on his throne, and he would treat the David and his line like his own son, um, giving them obedience of the nations and protecting them against dishonor and their enemies, and but then it takes this sharp turn saying, but you've been angry with your anointed one, you have cast him down, you've cast his throne into the dust, you've broken his line and given him and humiliate him before his enemies, and how long will you be angry with us, O Lord? So it's obviously post exile. It's very cognizant of the fact that there is no king there's no throne in Israel. Israel has been conquered by its enemies. They've lost sovereignty over the nation. Yet there's this promise that God gave to David that he will never fail to have a man sitting on his throne. It's from that juxtaposition between what God has promised and what's happening right now that that sharpened their expectation of the Messiah. I'm not saying there positive prophecies that explicitly predict that the the king from the line of David who would return and restore Israel to sovereignty, but you also have this recurring theme of being in this position of hopelessness
Mm-hmm.
where God seems to have abandoned them. All of God's promises seem to have failed, yet God is God and his promises cannot fail. So there has to be, no matter how dark it is, there has to be hope on the other
Mm-hmm.
side. It's only a matter of time before God fulfills his promise. And so it's a prophecy from apparent, um, a prophecy from apparent despair. It's a more dry academic way of saying it would be in the negative space of those first principles. Um, and when you apply that and read Ezekiel 37, which is the famous Valley of Dry Bones prophecy, a lot of a lot of modern, more liberal leaning interpreters will take that as just being metaphorical about. It's the part where he takes Ezekiel in the spirit, shows him a valley full of dry bones strewn across the valley, unburied, and he says, "Hey, who are these?" And he says, "This is the whole house of Israel." And he said, and God tells him, "Prophesy to these bones and tell tell them to come back to life." And Ezekiel describes this vision of seeing the bones come back and connect again to their joints, and then sinews and flesh are laid on the bones, and then flesh and skin, and then the spirit animates them, and he's describing step by step like a mass physical bodily resurrection. And then he talked about how God is going to restore the nation. He's going to restore a king to the throne of David. He's going to restore the fortunes of Israel and Judah and make them one nation again and make them the head of nations again. A lot of interpreters will read that and say that that's just figurative language for the return from exile. But if you read it in light of those earlier ideas about the immortality of those who fear God, and um, it's describing this hopeless situation, and God is saying, no, I can resurrect that. I can bring that back to life, even though you know, it's a valley full of sun bleached dry bones that have been long dead. That that's not a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you read that and believe it, there's no reason to not take it literally as resurrection, as literal physical bodily resurrection being promised. And indeed, that's how the ancient Jews took it, which is why they believed in a general resurrection. So,
Yeah, and I think that the other trick to that is, I agree with all of that. And I think that's probably where it becomes really interesting when we consider that Jesus was that promise, right? He's the one who's sitting on that promise of, the line of David won't not sit on the throne, is because Jesus sits on that throne in perpetuity now. And that's, it's a very simple way to understand that thing being fulfilled completely and in perpetuity.
And he's a man. The promise was no, there will be always be a man there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I partially agree with you guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
This
I know why you don't. I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
It wasn't a trick. I mean, like that's
yeah. I don't want to turn it into a debate about eschatology. We all know where each other stand, kind
Mhm.
of. I am a premillennialist. I believe Jesus is going to return and rule on earth from the actual throne of David. Um, I don't I don't regard those prophecies as having been fulfilled yet. But Jesus is certainly the preview of that. Like the
Well, he's the
Jesus was
preview and he's going to be the one that does it.
yeah.
Right.
I,
I'm
I'm just
not trying to get into versus pre and any of that. I'm just saying he is the one who sits on that throne. Like I'm talking about to be,
yeah,
right?
we're agreed on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
um but yeah, when I say he's the preview of that, meaning his what we call his first coming. That there's that passage in Second Peter where he says, "We did not follow cleverly invented stories when we made known to you the power and coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of His majesty." And he describes him being glorified on the Mount of Transfiguration in his own experience. And he says, "And so we have the word of the prophets confirmed, and you will do well to pay attention to it as to a light shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. You must understand that no prophecy of Scripture came about by the prophet's own interpretation, but men spoke from God as they were carried along by the Holy Spirit." Meaning, because we saw this fulfilled, because we saw the glorified Messiah with our own eyes, as the prophets foretold, therefore we know the rest of the prophecies are going to come to pass. Like Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the guarantee of the general resurrection that's being promised throughout. So, and it also informs and those prophecies also inform the creeds that we read about. Like people will read 1 Corinthians 15, and liberal scholars will insist that he's talking about just a spiritual resurrection. He just means that Jesus' spirit
Mhm.
ascended into heaven. He's not talking about a physical bodily resurrection. No, resurrection in the first century meant what we've
Right.
been describing.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I find it odd that there's people that are so hell bent on trying to shift I don't know if it's the goalposts or, the change the language or whatever, right? Like it happened. Like deal with it.
They're trying to reconcile the historical evidence with their unbelief.
Right. Right. Which seems like a really strange thing to do. But I mean, as you've pointed out, there were plenty of people that were personal witness to Jesus's miracles and still refused to believe him. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you got
So
any more
what?
questions for
Yeah.
us, Trey?
What other questions, Trey, did we answer that seemed like there was either need for
Uh,
expansion or disagreement?
oh, let's do the shock factor.
Okay.
Shock
Like
factor.
if this was
Don't
foretold,
don't do that. Don't do that.
what is
We're not that kind of show, dude.
who's we? If 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 it's foretold and these are disciples, why were they shocked
Oh,
when?
right. I, I've been really wrestling with that a lot. Um, One of the things that my pastor had said in past Easter services, he said, "Look, it's really interesting because they didn't expect it, and here's my proof." He said, "When people write books after the fact, because always you write books after the fact, you tend to cast yourself in a good light." He goes, literally every one of these books, they admit to being surprised. He goes, so
Yeah.
they were clearly surprised. Like, it wasn't like if any of them you would expect John to have been like, the others expected him not to resurrect, but not
Right.
me, his favorite, the one
I'm
he
the
loved the
favorite,
most.
and I also run faster than everybody.
Right.
I'm a track star,
Yeah.
and
But even John admitted, like the fact that it was Mary and Mary, or the women, whoever it was, that found Jesus's tomb, it wasn't it wasn't Peter on duty. Like, if Peter expected it, Peter would have camped out right there waiting, you know,
Well,
but they didn't. They were off like drinking or whatever they were doing. Like, they were just like, they're like,
hiding.
yeah, they're like, damn, man, Jesus died.
they were hiding.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the fascinating thing that emerges, and I guess you don't have to combine all of them into a single narrative to get this. You can just see in Mark where the angels appear to the women at the tomb and they say, he is not here, he's risen. um, Go and tell his disciples and Peter, he has risen and he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. So the like Jesus, it sounds like Jesus was not planning to appear to them on the night of Easter. He wanted them to believe the women
Hmm.
and pack up and go to Galilee, but
Hmm.
they didn't do it. They didn't believe the women, so he appears to them, and his first thing in Mark, he rebukes them. Why didn't you believe the women? And
They're like,
um,
it really is you.
yeah, um, and they're still pretty freaked out because yeah, he said he was going to rise from the dead, but
They thought it
you
was
know
metaphorical or something.
something. But Thomas wasn't there, and he wanted all of them to go. So a week later, when Thomas was there, he appeared, rebuked Thomas for not believing. Um, Finally, they get it, so they pack up and they go to Galilee. Um, it's what's also interesting. He wasn't. It sounds like he just was planning to appear in Galilee, where the bulk of his followers were, and I think that's where he appeared to the 500 that Paul mentions, and because he wanted to give them their collective marching orders as the church.
Hmm.
um, so that was kind of the dramatic tension when you combine them is, will they believe and go to Galilee? Well, yes, with some
With some special
coaching.
urging,
Yeah.
not initially. Mary's like, am I a joke to you? Like,
It's
I think it's funny that all the three gospels just like brutally say they just didn't understand. Like Luke 18:34, they understood none of these things. Mark
right.
9:32, they did not understand and they were afraid to ask. John 29, they still did not understand the scripture.
Yeah. Like, and these guys didn't write these books sitting next to each other.
yeah.
So it's like, hey, how are you talking about it? Didn't understand. Gotcha. Like that's not how they wrote these
Yeah.
books.
Um, Another interesting thing that emerges is like the creed has that he appeared to Peter first. Um, the angels tell him, go and tell his disciples and Peter. Because apparently Peter was not included in the disciples because he had denounced him 3 times. So
It's not what the Catholics
all,
think.
what's that?
That's not why the Catholics say that.
Why do Catholics say that?
Well, they say because he was special,
Oh, right,
because
right,
he
right,
was the
right, right,
Pope.
right.
Go tell the disciples and the Pope.
Right. Um, um, yeah, I think the ending of John's gospel is pretty clearly Jesus was hurt by his denial. All of heaven knew about his denial. So go and tell his disciples and Peter. Um,
Damn,
the
Peter, you were talked about in heaven,
Yeah,
dog.
the angels are up there like,
That fool just denied him three
dog.
times. But
the the creed mentions he appeared to Cephas, to Peter, then to the 12. So there was this private appearance just to Peter. Um, that we don't read about. Mark's gospel, which is Peter's gospel. Mark was Peter's interpreter, and he was the one who would translate his Aramaic into Greek as he traveled around the Mediterranean world visiting churches. So Mark had that memorized from being his interpreter for so many years. Mark's is the thinnest on resurrection appearances. It seems like whatever transpired in that first appearance was so painful to Peter, he just didn't talk about it.
It's like
We
he went
read
to the
about
dark side of the moon.
he got
He's like, hey,
yeah,
he got taken to the woodshed by his dad. That's what
hmm.
he got beat down. It's all right. With love.
yeah. So
Right. Any other interesting questions that you had, Dre, that we
Well,
should
what was
circle
it?
back
Was
on?
uh, uh, we talked about typologies, uh, the third day language
I think
pattern.
we got
We
into
kind
that
of
a
touched
fair
on that.
bit. Yeah.
We talked about David. Um, was it? I mean, was the resurrection clearly predicted, or was it only seen in hindsight?
when you say the resurrection, I would say I would answer that as the general resurrection. Resurrection as a concept, I think was pretty clearly. I think that is being established throughout the entire Bible, either implicitly or explicitly. Like humans were never supposed to die in the first place. Um, we were only made mortal by being shut out from the tree of life. Death was not plan A for humans. And so immortality was always intended for us. But and even when God was pronouncing the curse from in the fall, he is pronouncing the reversal of it when he declares tells the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and hers. Women don't have seed, men do. So this is someone who will be uniquely born of a woman. um, you will strike his heel and he will crush your head. This is the very first messianic prophecy, so it's implied a reversal of this evil. So even then, you kind of have the concept of resurrection and immortality being insinuated as as the revelation progressed. It became more and more explicit. Um, there are passages that do talk about the resurrection of the Messiah specifically. But like Psalm 16 is a famous example, Isaiah 53. But it's somewhat, I'm not, well, I mean, I guess Psalm 16, he does say
Well,
your Holy One will not see decay.
yeah, but I
Um,
think you said it earlier, where some of these prophecies were 100% read a different way, right? And then you have to have this event, and then you go, wait a second, we've been reading that, we've been reciting that psalm the wrong way, or we've been interpreting that, that other verse the wrong way. And that's why I answered it in lightning round the way I did, because I said it's both. Like, it was there all along. This is like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Nothing was, there was
that's a
no,
good.
there was no cheat. Like the information was always there, but we're not seeing it the way it was meant to be seen. It's easy for us now to come into this thing, 2000 years after the resurrection.
Yeah, we have the omniscience of hindsight
Yeah,
that
the
makes it
resurrection
clear.
is the big event to us that
Yeah.
draws us to Christianity. So then when we start with the resurrection, the rest of the Bible reads very differently. But when you were given the book of Isaiah, the scrolls of Isaiah, and what, 2000 BC, 1000 BC, whenever in the world that was written, like,
It was around 700. It's
okay,
eighth
I was
century.
off by 300 years.
You're off by a couple of millennia, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So
It's the same thing. Like it's way before. So then
Yeah.
like they've read these scrolls forever and they've interpreted them a very specific way based on their read of it, based on the information they had. So then when this event happens, they're not going, "Hey, wait a minute." Right? Like I think to this day that's specifically why Jesus quoted Psalm 22. Right? He was pointing them to this messianic this execution, this prophecy of crucifixion that no one read that way. Like I think people are just reading this as more of David's medal that he wrote because he was a tortured soul and had seen so much combat and the people were in such a bad place. I mean, you can't tell me that the
he was
Psalms aren't
singing
the
the blues
first.
on Bourbon Street.
The Psalms are the first metal lyrics ever written. Like there is no question. You take the Psalms and take some of the early um, uh, classical music, give it distortion, and like Bob's your uncle. You got
Yeah, and
Black Sabbath
and
1.0.
and Psalm 22 is another good example of resurrection being implicit in it. You might even say explicit.
I think it
Um,
is with
it
hindsight,
yeah,
yeah.
it gets a lot of attention for describing the crucifixion in such explicit medical detail, but in the final verses where he's praising God for delivering him, he refers to everyone who sleeps in the dust of the earth will bow down to you and will hear about this, which is clearly about resurrection. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that prior to the resurrection of Jesus, all of the information was there, but it wasn't explicit. Once it happened, then they could see that. And now skeptics will 2 points I have to make on to both very important. One, I lost my train of thought.
That was weird.
I totally just spaced out there.
It must be really important.
Two really important points, and okay, well the lesser important one, I forgot the most important one. I don't know why. I had this whole thing structured in my head, but then that one just deleted from.
Dre, Brian, I got to interrupt. Spurs just won their 60th game of the season. That's a big
Oof.
deal, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty big.
Sorry, Brian. Continue.
Okay, so skeptics will accuse Christians of reading these things into the text.
Yep.
And like Jews will point out how, well, yeah, we didn't read it that way. And there's a general resurrection, but the resurrection of the Messiah, that's not a thing. Medieval rabbinic Judaism, though, developed as they one studied the scriptures sort of in opposition to Christianity. They came up with the concept of two messiahs. Messiah ben David, who will be the glorious restoration of the Davidic dynasty, who's going to ride it on a white horse and rescue the Jewish people from their enemies, but also Messiah ben Joseph, a Messiah of the line of Joseph, who will be slain by this satanic king named Armalus. And Messiah ben David, when he descends from heaven, will raise him from the dead. So they're kind of acknowledging that you have these dual themes relating to the Messiah in their own scriptures, the suffering servant Messiah and the glorious King who reigns in power Messiah. They won't they can't deny that both of those themes are there. They just deny that they belong, they can be combined in one
To the same
person,
person. Yeah.
because that would be Jesus Christ,
Right.
and they reject Jesus Christ, but they can't get away from those themes, and they
Mm-hmm.
see the same things that Christians see. So no, we're not reading that into it. It's there, as the Jews themselves attest. The more important point that deleted, but it just came back to me as I'm talking about that. Um, this whole thing is why I don't think that the argument from prophecy is the best apologetic approach. Um, like, I don't think you should lead with trying to convince non-believers that Christianity is true by pointing to fulfilled prophecy, because they just attribute that to literary invention. They just wrote the story of Jesus to match these expectations. That doesn't prove anything.
But the
Um,
crazy thing about that is, though, but like, ask the Jews if they did that.
um,
You know what I mean? Like, I get what you're saying, but the problem is the Jews would have to agree with all of that Old Testament being prophecy for Jesus, and they're stone cold against it.
Sure, I'm just saying it's easier to make the case for the historical case for the resurrection itself, because
Hmm.
once you that's super easy. It's teed up for us. All the evidence is there. God just kind of wrote it in a way that makes it really easy to argue the point, and then the argument from prophecy kind of takes care of itself after that. So
Agreed. Yep.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So I
think,
think all of that is to say, because I mean the question was going to be, did first century Jews expect a dying and rising Messiah?
right.
And you both emphatically said, well, obviously not.
I because it's, the time that it is, and we're still in the Easter period, and Brian, you mentioned it. I actually want to read that end of Psalm 22 real quick for the
Do it.
listeners. Just, it's short, but I think it is wildly prophetic of the coming of the new kingdom. It says, from you comes my praise in the great congregation, my vows I will perform before those who fear him. The afflicted shall eat and be satisfied. Those who seek him shall praise the Lord. May your hearts live forever. And I know good and well when people read that, they were like, oh, yeah, it's just, everybody's going to be happy. Right.
We're gonna have a big party.
Yeah. But then it says, all the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations shall worship before you. For kingship belongs to the Lord. He rules over the nations. And again, we all know it's easy to understand that, ancient Near Eastern Jews believed that this meant a physical kingdom, man on a throne with a big staff, and everybody comes and bows. But, this is about, the kingdom of heaven,
And
etc.
and that's an astonishing thing for this tiny little backwater country on the coast of the Mediterranean, surrounded by pagan nations,
Hmm.
to declare that all of the ends of the earth are going to worship
Yeah.
our God
Yeah.
as the God.
Yep.
Like, that is that the fact that that's boring to us, that doesn't strike us as something odd, because we're so used to thinking of, you say God, and people that mean, oh, the God of the Bible, the
Yeah.
God of this people. Uh-uh.
Hmm.
That was written in 1000 BC by King David. Um, no, just one people on earth worship that God as
Yep.
the God. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
No, the last little paragraph is, all the prosperous of the earth eat and worship before him. All the prosperous of the earth eat and worship. Before him shall bow all who go down to the dust. Your point you made earlier. Even the one who could not keep himself alive. Prosperity shall serve him. It shall be told of the Lord to the coming generation. And this is the last sentence, and it's pretty cool. They shall come and proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn, that he has done it. Like, I don't understand how Psalm 22 doesn't get more heat and doesn't have more attention than it gets, because of what a big deal it is. And this is before everybody needs to go read it. Read it in, I'd say, the English Standard Version. That's the version I just read it from. Because, the parts about dogs encompass me, a company of evildoers encircle me, they've pierced my hands and feet. Like, this is in this same psalm up above. Like, it absolutely, like, no shit. talks about the
every
crucifixion.
line is astonishing in this.
It really is. And
crucifixion had not even been invented yet as a method of execution when David wrote that.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. And then the fact that this is what Jesus said as he was dying on the cross. He references he speaks the first line of this psalm. And like
Hmm.
I feel like it can't be overstated what a big deal this was. And the fact that David wrote this again, a few years before, 100 years before. God forbid I say it was 1,000.
Or 700 years
it actually,
before.
David actually was 1,000 years before.
So again, this is, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And if you're not familiar with Psalm 22, you should go read it. Read it in like 6 different versions so you see some of the changes. And then come back and I'll explain to you why some of them are different.
Is that right?
Hmm? Yeah. All the Masoretic versions are very different. There's a very specific difference.
Well, they're not so different, but they're different. I agree with what you're saying, but even if the Masoretic version is correct, the Masoretic version says instead of they pierce my hands and my feet, they say they're at my hands and my feet like the lion.
Yeah.
And lions, of course, are known for their gentle mani-pedis.
Absolutely.
I mean,
no, it's the sharp teeth that they would pierce the hands and feet with. And so, but
so does the resurrection redefine what Messiah means?
Yes.
It redefines what Messiah means from what Second Temple Jews thought Messiah means.
Well, it had a different connotation or denotation prior to Christ's taking of the mantle, right? Like it meant anointed one. So any of like Samuel or Saul or David would have fit the word Messiah.
Or king is a Messiah.
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way, and I think this is what I think to your point. There were a ton of messianic claimants,
Yes.
before and after Jesus. All of them, like every single one of them, was leading an armed revolt against Rome. Jesus was the only one who was a teacher who said things like "love your enemies." They were expecting a warrior. God sent a teacher. He will return as a warrior, but he's a Messiah whose strength is not in his arms raising and fighting prowess. His strength is in his authority for having died for the sins of the world.
Right.
And so,
and for his, reasonableness and justness, right? I know it's not all biblical, but there was a hilarious scene. So my family we're working through The Chosen slowly. We just started it. We watched a couple of episodes last night. And there was an instance where Jesus and John and James, Big James, as they refer to him, were out somewhere, and these Samaritans came upon them, and they were talking trash to him. The Samaritans were talking trash to the good guys, and they spit on him, and John got all upset, fired up, and wanted to fight him. And then he told Jesus, "I thought you could call down like angels and fire, like do it to them." And Jesus is like, "Bro, you got to calm down, man." And this is when he gives them the Thunder Brothers name. But he was like, "John, you really wanted me to call angels down with fire on those guys?" And then John's like, "Yeah, you're right. I need to work on that, don't I?" but, but it was a hilarious moment that, they made light in the show, but it was just an example of what you were just saying about Jesus, and that he was so much different than what they wanted and expected and demanded, which is why they rejected him and refused him.
Yeah, and it's something that struck me, when you read about like these in the prophets, when there are these oracles about the nations. There's all kinds of judgments being pronounced upon Babylon, Egypt, and Assyria, and Persia, but then when it talks about the end times, it talks about how Egypt is going to be joined to my covenant people, and Babylon, and Persia, and he's gonna like, and what comes through is that like God loves these nations. Like he loves all nations, and he's like he desperately wants to prosper everyone. Um, if they would just obey him, if they would just turn to him in faith. And it's like we're, it's it's easy to get caught up in these us versus them, especially as Christians, and the world that we live in, surrounded by godless leftism and hostile foreign countries who are persecuting Christians. It's easy to think of them as evil and us as good, and it's not entirely wrong, but it's still, when you read the scriptures, like God like jealously loves them, and
Mm-hmm.
he wants even the most wicked nation on earth to repent and belong to him. He's longing to bless them at the end of history.
Right.
If we could just, I mean, I feel like there are moments where I get a hold of that, and I can kind of like understand Jesus's character and even grow a little bit into it. But it's very fleeting by nature. I want to fight those people. I want to like,
Hey, David, Psalm 139. Do I not hate those that hate you?
yeah. I think a lot of the imprecatory psalms, it's venting.
Oh,
Like
that's why I made that
Yeah.
comment earlier. For
yeah,
sure it is. Like
he's
he was tortured. Yeah, they were going through it.
like he's bringing it up to God so he doesn't
Sure.
hate them in
Yeah.
person. And so, but yeah, um, but
David was a G though.
yeah.
And he did gangster things. So,
He, that's why he couldn't build the temple.
he didn't just talk about it, he be about it.
Yeah.
Dre, what do you think? You've been quiet. You've been re-asking the questions, but you haven't said a lot.
I think as we're just kind of saying it, many thoughts are just kind of like, oh, okay. Um, I mean, the whole thing about God's love and wicked countries. I think I recently had a friend call me and ask how I was voting on some particular thing,
For
uh,
tomorrow.
and and then asked all kinds of other questions, you know, concerning politics. And for the first time in probably a long time, I I don't know and I don't care. It's not that I don't care, but living in California,
It's hard to get worked up about
it
things that
it
you can't
it
really
it,
affect.
it is, and I find myself becoming a lot less angry about the goings on of stuff. I know that there's a plan. Um, I know that that what a couple of guys they're just kind of running society. They have a certain amount of power, but they don't have enough. And to me, that's a really comforting thought. So uh, it's hard to get mad anymore. It's just like, just move along. And then, just having a day like Easter Sunday and having the things that actually matter sitting right in front of me.
Lots of
Um,
Easter eggs and bunny rabbits.
yeah, lots of little girls in dresses, uh, even the 3-year-old who wasn't really interested in any of the stuff we were doing. So she just wanted to watch some classics. We watched Beauty and the Beast. Not Beauty and the Beast, sorry. Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. So it's so old-timey. And by the way, Prince Philip earned that kiss, damn it. He went through some stuff. Like he got down. So um yeah,
Hmm.
I mean I think it's really easy to say that that all of this typology and prophecy, because the Bible is written over such a long period of time that they just kind of overlaid each other. And you can say that, by the time David came around, he was hearkening back to that stuff because that's what they believed. And so many times that they went through whatever exile or conquered by, especially when you fast forward up to Daniel's time, the Babylonians. So you could easily say that those writers were brilliant to bring in that old language and use it for this. But the fact of the matter is there was a dude that died and came back to life. So you can say whatever you want to about the writers and their intents and how they were doing it, or how it was done. If you believe that a man died and came back and then taught for 40 days after that and then ascended to heaven, then it doesn't matter how they got there. It's good to know. It's good to know how they got there because you have context, and you have right think, but
I saw a meme yesterday. It said, if you want to know why I believe in the resurrection, Watergate. And then he explains, he goes, so you're going to tell me that 12 disciples stuck to the same story for more than 40 years, most of them met an untimely death, and they never recanted. But 12 of the most powerful men in the US government couldn't keep a lie together for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's Chuck Colson, who was
Yeah. I thought that was
involved. He was one of the key figures in that who became a Christian
after the fact, later.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great quote, though. It's the same way I feel about the moon landing, right? Like there's no way none of those guys went home and told their kids, hey, we didn't really do that. And the kids are like, well, my dad was a rocket scientist and told me, like, you hear none of those stories. There's no story of somebody whose dad, grandpa, uncle worked in NASA and faked the lunar landing.
It's interesting too because you have thousands of people working on this project,
Mm-hmm.
and every one of those thousand people thought they were making something to land on the moon.
Absolutely.
Working hard at their little piece to do this thing.
Yep. Yeah.
What am I, joke to you?
But nope, it was just for Stanley Kubrick to film on a downstage.
Am I,
Yeah. Yeah. So at my church service, Trey, I just thought of this because you mentioned watching the couple of Disney movies with your granddaughter. So my pastor closed with The Lion King.
Good movie.
So did he use my reel?
He used it. I thought it was Brian at my church. The Lion King has messianic undertones. I'm like, here we go.
It was me that brought the
you
messianic.
thought it was me.
Yeah. And so I don't. Did you send that reel, Dre? I didn't see it.
It was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he talked about some other pastor had used this, so he stole it. So
Right.
he threw it up and he talked through it. And for anybody that hasn't seen this, essentially, you've got the son.
Everybody's seen The Lion King.
The little lion that gets in trouble, and then the
Simba.
dad comes down to save him, and he
Mufasa.
dies. And then the kid is like, "Oh no, Dad, wake up!" And then the enemy comes up and goes, "This is all your
Scar.
fault, and you should run away." And so he does. But then while he runs away, he makes new friends, and his life's actually okay. And he's Hakuna Matataing, and he's becoming a vegan, and he's eating insects. He's doing all these things that aren't lion-like.
Vegan.
And he's like happy.
He does say vegan in the reel.
And then
He's borderline vegan.
And
Yeah,
then he eventually realizes that he's not living his purpose. And then Rafiki, the old priest, goes, "Hey, come here. I want to show you something." He's like, you remind me of your dad." And he's like, "You knew my dad?" He's like, "No, I know your dad." And then the little boy lion's like, "My dad's dead." And he's like, "Come here." And he's like, "Look in the water."
Correction, I know your father.
Yeah. He's like, "Look in the water." And he's like, "It's just me. Look harder." Right. And then he sees his dad because it's him. Right. And then so the whole, is, it is actually a really interesting allegory to Christianity.
That scene.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of James Earl Jones.
What was really funny was hearing my pastor, who's old, because it was Randy. It was the old pastor from my church, not Brian. and he actually did the little Rafiki voice. And he's like, what he needed was the old, fat, bearded pastor to tell him and slap some sense into him. And then, and then we all laughed. And when he said, look harder, like the whole church cracks up laughing. It's pretty funny. But he did a funny setup. So he's talking about the story with Jesus, and the guys were out fishing on the third reoccurrence, or the third time he revisited them. And he points out that in one of the books, it's very specific, and it says they brought in 153 fish. And Randy's like, I don't know. I don't know what the numerology means. He's like, but apparently it meant something because the Bible was specific about it, and numbers are rarely specific when they don't mean anything. So then a little bit later, he's like, so me and my grandkids had watched The Lion King, I don't know, like 150 times. And I was like, really, Randy? So I go up to him after the first service and I'm like, you realize you were right there on a callback to that 153 from the fish story. And he was like, how did I miss that? And I'm like,
you blew it.
I'm like, you got second service. You can bring this thing back together.
I was gonna say, did he say 153? Oh,
and that's exactly what happened. But I was downstairs when we were sending it to the internet, so the internet didn't get to hear him do the good joke. But I told him after, and then so I'm sitting in second service, and I'm like, is he gonna say 153? She's like, I've watched it a bunch of times, like 153 times, and everybody laughs, and I'm like, you're welcome. You're all welcome. So there's my personal. I shaped our Easter story at church.
It's like you're a writer on the Late Show.
Yeah. My joke killed.
The folk explanation for the 153 fish is that that was supposedly the number of nations that existed in their
at the time of all the known world or whatever.
I haven't been able to confirm that from anything
interesting
outside of the commentaries that say that.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it. Sure. There had to be a reason. Otherwise, it just would have said a multitude of fish, right? Like
it could have just been that like there were 153
or
fish.
Maybe Matthew sat down and counted them and he was like, hey, 153.
That was in John.
No, but Matthew would have been the one to count them, I'm saying.
Right.
Or Thomas.
Thomas.
I guess he was the skeptic.
Since we went to the Lion King, I just want to ask this question. How does the resurrection connect to the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD?
Man, that's like a whole other show.
Yeah, we should make that next week, honestly, because that's got like some preterism to it, and like there's all kinds of stuff going on there.
And let me know what you guys think of this. It could tie into that, but we've been speaking of the resurrection as a settled fact of history, which I believe it is. But that maybe we've done a show about this and I forgot about it. Have we done a show on the case for the resurrection?
I think we have, but we could revisit it.
We have.
We have, but I have no problem revisiting it. I mean, we could do that next week, or we could do what we just said. We could do one or the other. I'm fine with either.
Let me pitch this. I think we have other things we can discuss for the resurrection. We're planning to do this until May 17th to cover the whole 40 days.
Yep.
How about if the listeners respond and they're like, yeah, we want the case for the resurrection.
All right, listeners, pay attention. This is where the four of you that are still paying attention at the end of the show can shape the show.
Should we do the case for the resurrection or have we done that to death already? Let us know in the comments. If next week, I think we should do like, what does the resurrection mean to us now as the church? Then by then people will have time to respond and we can do that the one after that or not.
Yeah, let us know.
Answers. So
this is your chance to affect the show. And then when you're listening, you'll be like, you're welcome, everybody. It's because of me that the show did that.
That's right.
Yeah. We are putty in your hands.
We're here for you. You. That's why we do this show, for you.
I'm like, where's my camera? There it is.
All right. That was good stuff.
What? Did we solve it? Was it foretold?
It was.
Solved it.
Sort of.
So we didn't ask the question, was it foretold? We proclaimed it. We proclaimed it
Yeah.
was foretold. The resurrection
Yeah.
foretold. So with that, I'm gonna say stay enlightened, stay curious, and we're gonna see you next week. And we're gonna talk more resurrection. So how you like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless.